This video is brought to you by Practical Music Theory for the Rock Guitarist, my new book, which is a comprehensive guide to all aspects of music theory necessary for playing rock guitar. From blues to the cycle of fifths, from understanding and using modes to choosing the right notes for a melodic solo, from pentatonic scales to chord construction and keys. It's all covered in a clear and concise manner. With accompanying video demonstrations, jam tracks and tabs, you'll learn to use the knowledge you gain in accessible ways that make sense for less than the cost of a few guitar lessons. Check out the link in the description for more details. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Now, one of the things I love about YouTube is the fact that I meet new people, either in person or virtually. Once upon a time, my circle of guitar-playing friends was pretty concentrated on this area. People I'd been in bands with over the years, students and ex-students that I'd kept in touch with, that kind of thing, and just general musician acquaintances. But since I've started doing this, I'm making friends and acquaintances all over the place. There's a chap called Rex Anderson who's a student of mine. He's in Phoenix, Arizona. You sometimes see him on the live stream on a Friday. And goes by Rexomatic. And, he's a singer-songwriter. He's got a band called Big for His Age too. And I interviewed him on here when this, I think his most recent album came out a little while ago. If you like, rootsy Americana sort of stuff, check them out. Big for His Age 2. They're on all the usual platforms. Anyway, when I had the broken finger kind of thing going on and was unable to play, Rex suggested that I get together with a friend of his who runs a channel called Audiomo Music, a chap called Jim Engel. And Jim and I, we've had a couple of chats on Zoom, and he's going to be helping me out with a solo video in due course. More on that, as I say, in due course. But this was just our first little Zoom chat that we had, where we're discussing everything from Epiphone pricing to what he loves about Fender offset guitars. Yes. Will he convert me? Well, you'll have to watch the video and find out. Here's myself and Jim from Audiomo Music just having a bit of a gossip, a bit of a chinwag, a bit of a chew of the fat a few days ago, where we're just discussing general guitar-related matters. If you're not familiar with Jim's channel, I'll put a link in the description. Go and check him out. He's a really nice guy. But here's our chat that we had. Let's just spend half an hour just chewing the fat, talking about matters of a guitar-related nature, like some of the stuff we were talking about the other day. So here we go. Let's talk about Epiphone pricing, shall we?
Sure.
Okay. Do you have any idea what's going on inside the kind of top floor corner office of Epiphone headquarters? Because I think that they've lost the plot.
I don't think anybody knows what's going on there. And it's a weird spot because, they are operating in a different country under different kind of leadership divisions. So it's not as transparent per se as Gibson. But at the same time, they're still following the price increases of Gibson. I just never thought I'd live to see the day where there are multiple Epiphones priced right at where you can get American-made Gibsons.
Exactly. It's, every January I do a video where I talk about things I'd like to see in the next 12 months, And the past few years I've been saying, come on, Epiphone, how many Joe Bonamassa guitars have you done now? Can we just have one Gary Moore guitar, And this year they've done it. And it really is a case of be careful what you wish for, because I've looked at the guitar and I don't like the way it looks. And I certainly ain't paying, well, over here I think they're about, I might be wrong, £1,500 for an Epiphone. I didn't pay that for my USA-made Gibson. It's only a tribute, bottom entry level Les Paul, but it's still a USA-made Gibson. And I ain't paying half as much again for an Epiphone. Just not going to happen.
There's no way. And the problem becomes all of the import brands, if you look at them, once you get into the higher tier of
Yep.
them, as far as the Indonesian and the Chinese specifically, the prices on those just they're getting out of control. And I don't feel like, I don't know, the specs are good, and especially on the low end, brands like Harley Benton that have kept the prices very reasonable,
Mm-hmm.
I commend them, because that's not the case with brands like Epiphone. And it becomes, the more people that find out about brands like Harley Benton, the harder it's going to be for
Yeah.
them to be able to try and justify these prices further.
Yeah, we're going to get all the haters in the comments section now. You know that.
Sure, certainly.
You've mentioned the two initials H and B, Harley Benton. But all of the caps lock warriors will be out now in force.
I'll let 'em.
But I mean, I don't know. It depends where, what people's perception of a brand is. I mean, not my current single cut, but the one I had before that was a Harley Benton. Okay, it was the SC 552, and it was a beautiful looking thing, gorgeous flame top on it, stainless steel frets, you know, beautiful guitar. And I never bonded with it. It was nice. I enjoyed playing it, but it was never the guitar that I reached for, you know.
Yep.
Then I got a larger than expected bill from the taxman, and I thought, well, okay, I can pay it, you know. But it just struck me, well, it was about 1,000 more than I was expecting to have to pay. I thought, well, I can pay it, but if there's going to be £1,000 going out the door, I'd rather there was a big lump of money going out the door, rather there was a big lump of guitar coming back in return for it. And because of, like, I play guitar for a living, you know, guitars are tax deductible. So, you know, the following year I bought the this one. Let me grab it. I bought the Tribute, and it was like $995 or $999 or something like that. And the reason I bought it, well, yeah, it's a tax write-off, and you know, it's, you know, but it had that name on it. I'd had a good year. I wanted to give myself a trophy, you know, and I'll fully admit that, you know, you can buy a guitar that looks a lot like this for a lot less than this, that sounds very much like this. You know, I admit that guitar is, you know, call it my midlife crisis, my trophy, whatever you want to call it. Still love it though, and it depends, I think, on whether you know, the Epiphone brand can have that cachet that people are going to say, "Oh, Epiphone, yeah, that's worth saving up for. That's worth." And I just don't think it can, because it's been for decades now. You know, maybe not when Epiphone, well, there still are, but you know, like on an Epiphone Casino or something like that, where that is an Epiphone guitar, you know. But when they started using the Epiphone brand on Gibson shapes like SGs and you know, and Les Pauls and stuff, it's like, okay, here's the cheap one, here's the budget one. You can't afford what you really want, so have this one instead. It's almost as good, not quite. But it's almost as good. So I just don't know if the Epiphone brand has too much of that baggage with it to ever be an aspirational kind of thing on a Les Paul or something like that. You know, what do you think?
You said exactly what I wanted to say. For guitars like the Sheraton, the Rivera, and the Casino, I think that there's a lot of people who have played those historically, because that's a big part of it too. You can immediately think of Noel Gallagher playing that Epiphone. You can think of John Lennon playing the Casino. And when it comes to the Les Pauls and the SGs, who?
Yeah.
So
I think I remember seeing a rock festival on TV where the guy out of Twisted Sister was playing an Epiphone Les Paul, but that's it. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, it's difficult. And I know that there was one band, it might have been Cheap Trick, one of the guitarists played an Epiphone 339 on tour. Just because if anything went wrong with it, he knew he could go to the store and just pick up another one and it wouldn't be a big deal. And it wasn't a valuable instrument as far as, you know, damages. But that's it.
Yep. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they pull this one off. I suspect. I don't know. My gut feeling is that that they probably will get away with it, because the guitars that they're putting out there, you look around for them, they're always out. I mean, when they brought out the Carina V and the Carina Explorer, you try looking for one of those, sold out everywhere. So people are paying the money.
Yeah, absolutely. But before I get killed in the comments for just being like, oh, it's Gibson or Harley Benton for him, let me show you one of the biggest reasons why I will never pay that for an Epiphone. I have a guitar I have to show you. Oh, yeah. 1 second. This guitar was completely handmade in Japan.
Yeah.
It has an ebony board, real binding, nitro finish, all CTS, hand-wound pickups in it, and this thing is like an R7. It is unbelievably good, and it is light. It's under 8 pounds.
Wow.
This cost me used, and you can find these. The brand is called 77 for a few hundred less than what a greenie would cost. And the quality of instrument, it is not even close, because they don't make a billion of these a year. So for me, I would rather take my time and get something like this if I was stuck to that price range, because in the grand scheme of things, yeah, the pull of the Gibson is a big thing. I have a Gibson 335. I've tried other brands, and just something about that one, I did the same thing. I was like, you know what? That's my reward guitar. Even though it might not be quantifiably better or worth the money, so to speak, to some people, to me, it was, and it still is. And I love that guitar. But there are so many other brands that are just killing it, especially in Japan. There is no way, knowing what I know about the guitar manufacturers there and the pricing, that I would ever purchase an Epiphone at their new pricing. It's just nuts.
I tried one of the 59 Les Pauls.
Yeah.
I had it basically, someone sent it to me to do a review on, and I had the option of buying it at a very, very generous price. And I don't know, it just I could not find a single thing wrong with it. But I just thought, this is going to be just a guitar that is going to just sit there on the rack and not get played, It's, I don't know, it just felt a bit cold. So do you see, let's assume for a moment that Epiphone pull this off. Do you see other manufacturers, kind of paying attention? And I guess what I'm saying is, do you foresee that in a couple of years' time we might be being invited to pay a 4-figure price tag for a Squier?
I don't think we're far off from that, especially when you look at the trajectory of the Mexican-made Fenders specifically, because you and I would both remember 10 years ago, $300 for one of the classic series, which is the 50s or the 60s reissue. That was a common occurrence. And the equivalents now are the Vintera 2s. If you want a Strat, that's $1,150 or $1,200 US. And again, it comes back to what you said earlier on. I could buy a used American Standard from, that same time period of the late 2000s, early 2010s. And I feel like I'm getting more for my money. I feel like I'm not kind of, I don't know, it's almost weird to say compromising or settling. But at the end of the day, there is a difference to some people, even if it's just here. And I don't know. It's a strange one. I think Fender are on track to do that sooner than anybody else. And then you have Paul Reed Smith. They're taking a completely different approach. But their SEs, they already have some that are $950 US. So they'll get there really quick too.
Yeah. And I think, personally, I've had a bunch of SEs, and they're nice guitars, but they ain't worth that. The step up in quality from when you go from an SE to an S2, I think, is just absolutely quantum leap. And if you shop around for an S2, I got this one for I paid £700 for this.
I believe it.
And it's this is a 2016 model. They're basically the same model as they have today, but they have different pickups in it. I think they have the 5815s in these days, and this is a HFS and a vintage bass that's in here. They sound awesome. It's got a trem that is impossible to put out of tune, and it doesn't have that kind of Liberace vibe that many of the higher end ones do. And what I'm saying is, for the same sort of money that you'd pay for an SE, less in fact, you can get something like that used, and it's a far better guitar, I think.
I 100% agree with you. And it's weird because if you look at it from the other side of the token, I know a few people that will only purchase guitars new. Mm-hmm. And they feel the same way about the SE versus the S2, but the value, I would argue, is worse with the S2 if you purchase it at the new pricing for like the McCarty 594 or the Custom 2408, because you're getting the same exact electronics and a lot of the same hardware in the S2 that you get in the SE anyway. Yep. Granted, to me, when you play them and you sit with them, the American ones are much better. But $1,000 more dollars?
Yeah.
At that point, if you're going to spend $2,000 on a Paul Reed Smith, you can get a used core one.
Yeah.
It might not have the prettiest top or the fanciest new pickups or colors, but it's still a core PRS. And that's how I would do it.
And I also think that it's, once you get into that sort of level of pricing where you're kind of talking multiples of thousands, then you're probably buying it on finance anyway. And, it's a few dollars or a few pounds a month on your monthly payments. So just, just do it that way. As I say, if you're going to be, spreading the cost, then break that cost down into, 24 or 36 monthly payments. How much more is it a month? You can, so, well, that's interesting. So talking about PRS guitars, you ever owned one?
I've had a few.
Okay.
It's the only reason I have that display is because I had a Paul Reed Smith guitar, a core McCarty that was purple, and the finish was already starting to fade within 6 months and lose the color. And I was terrified. And a buddy of mine who I actually went to, I don't know what you would call it in the UK, but before university, we call it high school here.
Yeah.
He ended up being a craftsman, and he lives 20 minutes away, and he loves Paul Reed Smith guitars too. So he just built me that case for it. And I really, really liked the way that guitar played, but I felt like I had to handle it with kid gloves, and I was terrified of it. And it's weird because I've had more expensive Fenders than that. I've had more expensive Gibsons than that, but I've never had that I can't get a scratch on this thing.
Yeah, I think that we've seen so many, rock stars over decades playing a Strat or a Les Paul or a Tele that looks a bit beat up and it wears it well. I don't like relic guitars. I can't see that. Well, that each to their own, but it's not for me. But a guitar that wears its scars well, that it's earned them honestly. I don't have a problem with that. When was the last time you saw a kind of plush, beautiful purple burst kind of mother of pearl and gold inlay and everything, core PRS that's got those kind of battle scars on it? You just don't see them. They're meant to look pristine. So I can see where you're coming from on that. It just, it's not a guitar that would look good relict. And that's a point, actually. Do you think Paul Reed Smith will ever do road worn or relic guitars?
Yes. They're going to do it on the Silver Sky first, and then they'll do it on that. Do you even call it a Telecaster? Oh. The new one, that thing is hideous. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, those two guitars, They'll they'll offer those in relics sooner than later. I'll bet the farm on it, because Mayer, he played a lot of relic guitars, whether they were real relics because he could afford them, or ones that were from the factory. He had a custom shop Fender, the black one that came with half the paint off of it, and it sold insanely well. So I could see Paul Reed Smith doing the same thing at some point with those. But like you said, though, something about the really flamey tops, the over-the-top colors, the mother of pearl, I don't think that those will wear nicely in the same way that a Gibson will or a Fender will. So I'm not sure about those.
So I guess the next few decades will tell. Though, thing is, I mean, PRS. I mean, they've been around now since the mid '80s. '85 was it the custom PRS Custom 24 or the first one anyway.
Yeah.
When that came out. And so they've been around long enough to kind of get those knocks, but you just never see them. You never see any of examples of that brand or that particular range or model of guitars having had that kind of life. I guess it's because most people treat them like you do. It's like just put it on the stand, little spotlight on it, and treat it as the sacred object that it is. Well, it would be for me if I paid that kind of money for. But
yeah.
So let's talk about offsets.
I know you love these.
I don't know. I mean, the first Fender guitar I ever played was an offset. There was a Fender Stratocaster that was on kind of permanent display in the window of the little guitar shop in the little town where I grew up, and and you weren't allowed to touch it, but you could just go and stare at it longingly, So, and that was a big thrill to be in the same room as a real Fender. And then I went to college in '84, and there was a guy who lived in the same halls of residence as me who had a real Fender. It's a Fender on the headstock. It was a completely butchered and modded Music Master.
Oh.
With and he'd chiseled and hacked a DiMarzio Super Distortion into the bridge, and left the little kind of covered single coil near the neck, and bodged a pickup switch into it. But it was a real Fender. And I picked it up and played it because he was kind enough to let me play it, and it was like, like that scene in the Blues Brothers where the light shines down on John Belushi, and it's like, it's that kind of moment. I finally played one, and this is when I was playing. I'll show you one of these. This is the same model of guitar as I had in '84. This is a Satellite Les Paul copy. £80 in 1980 of the finest plywood money can buy, with fake humbuckers, single nasty, cheap, scratchy sounding ceramic single coils inside fake humbucker covers. And if I remember rightly, the covers, when you kind of looked inside them, you could still see the faint ghost of Pepsi logos on there. So they were making the pickup covers out of old Pepsi cans. So to have one of those, and play a real Fender, that was a big thrill. But I don't know, it was just, I didn't know. I knew the square root of nothing about guitars back then. Some would argue that's still the case. But, I started kind of looking at pictures of guitar, getting guitar magazines, and, and I don't know, just something about the shape of an offset. It's just the way it's like the kind of lower horn wants to come out further, but it just kind of got stopped in its tracks. I'm not making much sense, but the shape of them I don't find aesthetically pleasing. Is that something that ever troubled you and you got past it, or is it something that you like the look of them? I know when we spoke before, you said it's the vibrato that really sells it to you. So tell me why you love offset guitars then.
They feel right.
Okay.
When I sit with them, I don't know. It just feels right in my lap. Whether it's the Jaguar more so than the Jazzmaster,
okay,
because of the scale length on it, I feel like it's much more compact. It's like a little bit bigger than a Telecaster sitting with it, but it gives me stuff that a Telecaster just doesn't give me. And I primarily play rhythm like most guitarists do, and they don't want to admit 99% of the time. And for me, that comfort with the vibrato there and being able to be so expressive with it has always worked. And I never was a huge sustain monster. So that never really got to me until later in life. But offset guitars, they don't have that. They have, a quick attack to them, but they sound amazing for the styles of music that I want to play. And when I was out playing in California for over a decade, right on the coast, there's always an offset, and it just works. It just sounded good. You didn't need anything but the amp. You didn't need 50 freaking pedals or any sort of switching. You just plugged into a nice amp with a good spring reverb, and you were good to go.
Yeah. When I think of a typical Fender offset sound, the thing that immediately pops into my head is the intro to Surfing USA. Just that sort of bright, clean, as you say, sharp attack and no sustain. Do you ever find that, what's the one with the big pickups? That's a Jazzmaster, isn't it?
Jazzmaster, yeah.
Do you ever find you have noise problems with those? Because that's when I did a review of a Jazzmaster a couple of years ago, and it was a noisy beast. It was like really kind of just any kind of stray electronic noise, it would find its way into that. I had to really kind of play with a noise gate to get that guitar sounding good.
I don't have problems with that. The majority of Jazzmasters I get are from Japan, and they do an excellent job of shielding underneath. So I just don't have those issues. And then I have a gold American Vintage 65 reissue that I've had that for over a decade at this point. And the same thing, Fender USA at that time, that was when I believe they were making their best guitars of this last like 30 years was that line of guitars. No problems whatsoever with those. However, I will say, to your experience, I have played both Squire and Mexican Jazzmasters that the second you plugged it in, it was all hell broke loose, and they were brand new guitars.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, I'm like, somebody didn't wire this right, or somebody did not shield this right. And it is what it is.
I'm talking about brand new Fenders. I don't know. I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
What's with the fret sprout? It's environmental conditions, nothing to do with us. Well, I can buy a guitar that costs a fraction of what you're charging that doesn't seem to suffer from the same environmental conditions. And B, your guitars didn't suffer from these conditions 20 years ago. I got a Nashville Telecaster on the wall back there, which was very, very, very generously given to me as a gift. But that needed a little bit of remedying when it turned up. And when you looked at it through a magnifying glass, it was just like this simply hadn't given any treatment to the fret ends at all.
No.
It was just like, snip them off square, send it out, So I don't know. It's for me, it's starting to get a little bit like it was in the late 70s, when you got the sense that Fender just didn't care. Stick our brand on it, stick our logo on it, it'll sell because it says Fender. And then Bill Schultz kind of, when he led the management buyout, that was, things improved because they had to. And I don't know, I just think it's kind of getting a little bit back to where it was back in the late 70s again. in terms of not on all guitars, but on a lot of them that I've played lately, you just get the feeling this wasn't built by somebody who gave a damn, you know?
I agree. And it's really unfortunate. I love Fender guitars more than any other brand. And I often get called a Fender hater because I'm the most critical of them.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a few American vintage from this line for demo stuff and for buy and resell and that kind of thing. And they were both fine. Actually, the Telecaster was fine. The surf green one. The fretwork was okay. It was passable. But again, you're talking about a $2,200 guitar, $2,100, and it didn't feel like a guitar that was special or that they took extra time to really set up nicely. The Jazzmaster, they did not test the rhythm circuit. It didn't function. And the fretwork on that was awful. And that's a $2,500 guitar.
You see, there's no excuse for that.
It's awful. Yeah. Awful. There's no other way of saying it. I was so disappointed. And it's sad because I wanted to really love that guitar. And a year before that, you probably don't follow the offsets enough to remember, they did the 60th anniversary Jaguar. And it was in my favorite color of Lake Placid blue, but it was a bit fancier. I ordered one sight unseen because I was just like, I love Jaguars and I don't think they're going to make one like this. That was the worst new Fender guitar outside of, really cheap Squiers that I can ever recall playing. It was just an entire botch job. The frets weren't even close to level. They were not finished. The guitar just played like a dog. It weighed like an anchor, and it did nothing for me. I tried to, even on YouTube, to give it the benefit of the doubt, like it'll grow on me. Sometimes it's just not there at all.
So would you class that as, because it's almost like we planned this. Next thing I was going to say to you, is that like your biggest disappointment, your biggest case of buyer's remorse? Would it be that guitar, or is the one that ranks even higher?
The disappointment would be that one.
Okay.
100%, because that was the one that I had a 50th anniversary Jaguar, and then life happens. And I had to sell it to fund a move back to California. And I said, if they ever make a 60th, I'll wait and I'll get it. And then sure enough, they did. And that guitar just sucked. It was not a good guitar. And again, $2,500. And I've never been that disappointed in an instrument. Buyer's remorse wise, though, that's a different question.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if I would say it's full on remorse, but if there was one, it was the PRS, the core PRS, because I don't like and it wasn't even the guitar's fault, but that mental stigma of I didn't want to damage it. I didn't want it to get like scratches. I don't care about that. I have guitars out on the racks. I've gigged guitars that are, expensive American guitars. I don't care. But with that specific guitar, I feel like I never got the most out of it because of whatever reason that I wasn't willing to treat it the same way. And then when I went to sell it, every single little scratch or little miss thing was scrutinized by everybody who was in the market to buy it. It was a terrible experience, and I doubt I'll ever go down that route again.
It's interesting because I think probably my biggest... a guitar that I'd really kind of, ever since they came out, I'd looked at it and I thought, that's got my name written all over it, I love a vintage voiced bridge humbucker. I like a guitar with a fixed bridge. I like a big, fat neck single coil. And, I had enough money burning a hole in my pocket, so I pulled the trigger on a PRS Vela guitar. I know, offset, but not.
I'm laughing.
It's not offset. It doesn't kind of anyway. And getting out the box, oh my God, it looked gorgeous in person. I'd managed to get one that had the dot inlays because I don't like the PRS birds, and it was just balances nicely. I plugged it in and it just sounded thin. No matter what I did with it, it just sounded like this big fat neck single coil pickup that just sounded like so underpowered and lacking in bass, and just nothing I did with it. And the bridge humbucker was just. I mean, I'm no fan of Screaming Demon or kind of super distortion pickups or anything like that. But it just sounded so weak and underpowered, and just I wanted so much to love that guitar, but it was sold within a week, and it was the S2 standard that came as a replacement. But I kind of turned it over and put the money back into the S2. Actually, made a little bit of a profit on that whole kind of one out, one in kind of thing. But yeah, that would probably be my biggest disappointment, because it was like, okay, so you've got a guitar that isn't really for you, but I've been looking at these for about 5 years, these Vela guitars, thinking, got to get me one of those. It's going to be fantastic, and it just didn't float my boat. It just felt great to play, but so I could have upgraded the humbucker, but finding a replacement for that neck pickup might have been a bit of a tall order, because it's like a one-off bespoke pickup, isn't it? It's not like a standard size. Okay, Jim, I got to wrap it up there because I got a lesson to do in 15 minutes or so, well, less than that now, and then I got an appointment with Mr. Heineken.
Well played.
So I can't keep him waiting. Okay, Jim, I've got to shoot off. Thank you so much once again, and no doubt we'll be in touch again soon.
All right, thanks, John. Have a good rest of your day. Take it easy.
And you, Jim. Take care now. Bye-bye. What a genuinely nice chap. I think you'll agree. And as I say, if you're not familiar with his channel, there's a link in the description. Go and check out some of his videos he's got, or go and check them all out. He's got a lot going on, and very, very genuine chap. Great player, and very knowledgeable, and a pleasure to hang out with. Thank you for taking part in this, Jim. Jim is going to be helping me out with a solo analysis video that I tabbed out, but my current finger situation was it was just a little bit beyond what my physiotherapist would have recommended me doing. So Jim stepped up to the plate like the gentleman that he is. But that is a story for another day, and that is the video for today, folks. Hope you've enjoyed what you've seen and found it entertaining in some small way. And if that's the case, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so. And why not drop me a like as well while you're at it? And don't forget to go and check out Jim's channel. Don't forget the live stream tomorrow and every Friday, 5 p.m. UK time. We drink beer and talk about music and guitars, much like we've just been doing there, actually. But there's beer involved, and it's a great way to kick off the weekend, I think. I'd love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.